Okay, Beverly, as promised, we pulled the flooring out and unrolled it. Looks a little dirty, that's for sure, and a little red paint on it back here by where the back seat would be. And but it doesn't look threadbare by any means, but looks like a little, I don't know if it was discolored back under the trim or if it was discolored out in the traffic area, but it looks like it had a little bit of a khaki or green tint to it. Also notice that some of the sewn edges are frayed a little bit. Some of the edges that I would expect would have been sewn edges aren't. Not quite sure why that is, so yeah, you might want to consider. Oh, and then on here we have this appears to be adhesive that might have been used, spray adhesive that might have been used to hold the flooring down. And if we look at the back side of the flooring, we have spray adhesive shows up on the back side of the flooring as well. So yeah, it might be time to change the flooring. Just let us know what you want to do, and we'll just roll it back up for now. All right, some of the other new news is transom's on. When you were here, it was trial fit, which means that we really had to pull all the planks off, and we knew everything was going to fit. And then we put it on with 3M5200, the bottom two planks, and then the upper planks are put on with bedding compound, and all of the edges are faired, and so that's all been done now, and so that works complete. We've boxed up all of the chrome for shipment to the chromer, and the last thing that we're doing right now is Andy's taken apart the spotlight for rechroming of it. All those parts, then we have to reassemble it once it comes back. So let's see, we repaired a joint over. This might have been done when you got here, I don't remember, but this joint was about 1/8 of an inch wide right here, and we have, where'd the joint go here? Right here. So we repaired that joint as well, and by actually cutting it with a saw right down the center of the joint, and then moving it forward, cutting again, and then about 2 or 3 cuts, which is about 1/8 of an inch in all. We have a perfect joint. So some of the other issues that we uncovered when we started pulling the seat frames out of the boxes that we loaded up basically straight from Gunnersville is you see a seat frame here, and we have another one in the gluing clamps right here. Those are these triangular, somewhat two sides of a triangular shape objects. They have tabs on them. Tabs, or I guess tabs is a good enough term to use, that slide under the covering boards on the boat and get fastened in. And this supports one side, and then of course the other side of the seat frame. And here's I'll show you on this one. Here's this tab, and the other side of the seat frame actually, which as you can see is quite gnarly. All the holes have been damaged and broken out, but this seat frame would actually screw in to this block. Whoops, did it backwards, sorry. Would actually screw into this block that is going to be bolted to the floor. Now, a couple things wrong here. The block's white oak, it should have been mahogany, and the end of this piece of wood is badly damaged. So we had two problems. Number one, this tab that you've seen replaced, that you see here that's been replaced, I'll show you what they actually looked like. They were these broken up pieces right here. Matter of fact, this was a piece that was still back under the covering board, and there was only about 1 inch of piece attached to the frame. It was only about 1 inch long, and so there was no way we were going to be able to get a good mechanical connection here. Now I probably need to show you what the covering boards are, and I may be insulting your intelligence, you may already know, but these guys right here are the covering boards. So that tab slides into a slot where my finger's going in here, is into a slot that goes back underneath this covering board, and that's how that end of the seat frame is fastened in. So I would say that you probably had already experienced that those seat frames being pretty rickety is my guess. And I don't know if you can see the slot directly at the top of the rib on the other side. Let's see if I can just center on one rib. I guess I can't. But there's a slot in there. It's about 3 inches, 4 inches wide, a ½ inch tall, and that's where that slides back into. So, okay. So that was one challenge that we run into recently. And the way we're solving these ends is we're going to cut 7/8 of an inch off the end, and of course that would make this thing sit 7/8 of an inch too low, and your seat back would sit 7/8 of an inch too low. So the way we're going to solve that is we're going to make a new piece to replace the white oak that is out of mahogany. Matter of fact, we've already done that, and we're going to stack that new piece, which here's the new exact copy behind here that is the same dimension as the old piece, as the original piece, which also you can see it's badly cupped as well. And then here's the 7/8 of an inch piece underneath that we're going to stack it up with, and then we'll round that over. You'll still have the step in between the seats that you have to step onto. It'll just be 7/8 of an inch taller than it was in the past and quite a bit more stout. All right. We also had to fix this particular joint right here. This joint had fallen apart, and so we've redoweled it and epoxied it together, and we did a template of the seat back, and this template, of course, is what we have used to set the angle on this seat frame as we put it back together. And right here you can see where we put the new tab in. We came well back away from the damaged area, and we also made a curved cut, and that's so any stress that we transfer from this piece to the seat frame, we do it instead of along one straight sharp corner, we have this rounded area, and we can apply the stresses over a larger area, and so we're less likely to break it out. The other thing we did is for bolting these seat frames to the flooring, they bolt to this floor. That center piece bolts to this floor, and we reinforced it on the back side with 3/4 inch marine plywood back here. Okay, that's been painted with clear penetrating epoxy sealer. So, and this is your front seat bottom frame, as well as the flooring where your front seat back actually fastens to. Let's see, other progress. Yes, and other issues in progress. We have fuel tank, which when we picked it up, we had something rattling there, and we thought, oh my God, it's full of crap. But it turned out it was a piece of chain. Probably somewhere along the line a gas cap had been lost. The chain is supposed to keep the gas cap captive. The chain must have gone down in the tank. We were able to retrieve that. Tank's clean and ready for use, so it's ready to go in. Dashboard's probably the next item we need to discuss. You'll notice we have holes right here that were for switches, and they're centered in between the two strips of metal. And those were original holes. That would have been where the instrument and navigation light were originally. And what we have over here is holes that are just right above the lower strip of metal. And when we took those switches out, it's the first time we really looked at them close, the nuts on the switches that hold the switches into the dash were compressing out there on the metal. And so not only could you not get a identification tag for the switch on there, blower, bilge pump, whatever, you couldn't get an identification tag, but you couldn't even really get the nut on there. The whole switch was cockeyed. So we're going to plug those. With your permission, we're going to plug those. We're going to raise those holes up, re-drill them, put them dead center in line with the original holes. And then we also have a choke that has to get installed in this hole that's between the two large gauge holes. Well, one large and one small gauge hole. And the choke cable is missing its knob. So the knob will have to be replaced. Well, the knob can't be replaced. The knob is the cable has to be replaced because the knob is swaged on to this end of the cable. This is knurled right here, and so you know, if we could even get a knob, now we might try to get a knob and put a knob on, but probably going to have to buy the whole cable, which is a shame because the cable is essentially in good condition, other than that. So, but that's our plan right now. Of course, we've run the engine. We have a, curiously, transmission oil cooler is got 1-inch inlet and outlet on it, and we have an 1.25 inch inlet on the water pump. And all of the water comes through this cooler first, then into the pump, and then throughout the engine. So we've got a hose ordered that's 1 inch on one end and 1.25 inches on the other, and then we'll put this has been Rube Goldberg's down here. Don't know if you can see this, but there's an 1.25 inch hose on a 1-inch oil cooler. Now, the other option that we have is to change the oil cooler. They're about $100, and it'll take, you know, a half an hour to change the oil cooler, I suppose, and actually have 1.25 inch line hose and everything, which would reduce and eliminate any kind of restriction in the flow of cooling water. However, if you experience no problems with overheating in the past, you shouldn't experience any problems now, and you just need to take that in consideration when you tell me whether or not you want to change the oil cooler. The oil cooler seems serviceable in every other respect. So, oh yeah, I wanted to also show you your wiring harness. Your wiring harness starts under the dash. We've got the tail laying on the floor right now, but that tail will trim each one of those wires as we connect to switches and or gauges. And then the wiring harness comes down the engine stringer, and we peel out a bunch of wires right here for the you know, they go to the engine, they go to the blower, they go to the forward bilge pump, and then we go on back to the back for the fuel sender and the stern pole. So also where we peeled some wires off for here is for the blower. You'll notice, whoops, you'll notice your blower hose, the end of that extending right below the right below where the engine goes, and we've got the blower hose in the box. This is about 100 feet in that box, believe it or not, and because we're only going to use about 10 feet of it. And then the blower is actually installed right here. That's what that little white doohickey is the blower, and the hose is going to come up right to this hole in the covering board, and of course there will be a vent on this, so the driver, that would be you, can before we can turn the blower on, can turn around your seats right about up here. So here, hold your hand there, Andy, where her seat's going to be. Here's where the blower is. So if the blower is going to be blowing the bilge gases at your nose, you can just lean over the back of the seat and smell and make sure that you don't smell anything that smells like fuel, and you're ready to start your engine. So that is the progress, quite a bit. And yep, already got those. So all right, we're signing off, and hopefully this one's shorter than the other ones I tried to make, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.